this is a random video. Hey guys, Cadet Lee here, or Xavier Lee. You guys probably seen my four videos, and today I'm just gonna go over this random video. Like, what is RTC? What are the benefits? What do you get out of it? The opportunity, comparing to like other officer routes, just a lot of things. What to expect. Maybe a daily life schedule of, you know, an engineer like me. So to get started, RTC is called Reserve Officer Training Corps. It's one of two other ways to commission as an officer. The two other ways are going to the academies like West Point, Naval Academy, Coast Guard Academy, Air Force Academy, Merchant Marine Academy. I think I named it all. And there's also OCS, Officer Candidate School. You do have to go to basic, and you do have to be enlisted in the NCO, and you do have to be selected. Or you can go through RTC, be a regular college student, and have a military life and structure to it to commission as an officer. An officer is basically a person who leads people. There's different aspects to it, but that's different to a non-commissioned officer, who are people who have I guess lower ranking status, because, you know, obviously a second lieutenant outranks even the highest NCO, but you should always respect everybody. Anyways, that is ROTC. You don't necessarily have to join the Army. If you go to ROTC, you can just join to just understand the aspects of like what it is to be kind of a cadet. You also like learn how to be disciplined. There's a lot of aspects to it too, again. So, alright, so ROTC is basically comprised of PT and lab. That is all you have to know as an underclassman. So, obviously it's broken down into MS 1 year, you have MS 2 year, MS 3 year, MS 4 year, and it can go up to 5 and 6. 5th year, 6th year. And I'll go into deep detail of that. So basically, all you have to know as an MS 1 and 2 is that you're just the cog in the wheel. That's what they all say. You just have to worry about showing up on time in the right uniform to lab and PT. So focus on PT, lab, PT, lab. Right? You don't really necessarily have any leadership roles given at this time. You're here to learn, and that's all you have to do. And do your best. You know, if you do your best, then it obviously shows. People notice, the cadre notice, and it's overall good on you. So before we go into that, there's a team for each ROTC program, and usually you can call it ROTC battalion. I don't know, there's like a lot of ROTC battalions out there, say over like 200 in the nation, and each ROTC battalion has their own structure to it. They have their own ways of doing it, different cadre of teaching, so not everything is the same. It's kind of like the police departments, right? Their training is different from other ones, so it's not really uniform. How they do it is USAC, it's like the level above ROTC, in which they have their orders, and so ROTC has to maintain and uphold their mission statement. But they can do whatever way they want to achieve those mission sets. So right, we have the PMS up here. The PMS is called the Professor of Military Science. He or she is usually a ranking of at least a major or above. I think I've heard like there's a captain before who's the PMS. So yeah, he's the guy in charge of like the whole program. He runs the whole thing. And he's usually an instructor for the 4th year class. And then he has a team of Rue, admin, and cadre. So Rue stands for recruiting operations officer. He's the guy who kind of works with the National Guard recruiters and kind of reaches out to Rutgers and regular students to recruit people and bring out what RTC is and try to like bring a positive image to that. Administrative, you have other people who are maybe civilian contractors, prior military contractors who help with RTC and help with the PMS. It could be like filling out paperwork, helping out with classes through RTC, because as a student, RTC student, there's usually like a class registration that is kind of complicated, so he or she helps out with that. And then you have the cadre members that are kind of the advisors and instructors to each MS class. So usually there's about 5 cadre members, 1 per class, and there's like an assistant to it. So like a captain could be teaching an MS1 class, and then like a senior NCO would be advising. So in our program, we have a lieutenant colonel. He's a very experienced guy, enlisted, over 20 years of experience, been in Pentagon, was a prior enlisted sergeant, and he has a really positive attitude towards like everything. He's a great guy, motivating. And for our cadre members, we have an engineer officer, we have a officer who's been to Ranger School, we have a sergeant first class infantry guy. I shouldn't say guy, but I don't know what else to put. He was a drill sergeant, and I remember him coming in. It was like all like so serious about everything, knife handing, everything. But he's more chill and nice now. And we also have mass sergeant. We have a mass sergeant, and he, I don't know, is or was in the 3rd Ranger Battalion. He's a really upfront guy. Like, he says stuff, he's real with stuff. He doesn't like go around things. One time it was like, all right, we're all gonna go to Russia. We're gonna kill some Russians. I'm like, okay, all right. Anyways, so yeah, that's the team, and then it goes down to the MS2 to 4. We just call ourselves cadets. We were never told that, okay, if you join the program, you're gonna be called a cadet. It's just assumed here that, if you join the program, you're now a cadet. Alright, so MS1 and MS2 year, the curriculum, right? Yeah, class. Alright, and this goes out to MS3, 4, and 5 year, right? Everyone has PT, everyone has lab, everyone has class. Now, as MS1 and 2 year, class is usually around 1.5 hours. MS3 and 4 year, it is 3 hours. Why is that the case? I don't know. Is an issue. It is annoying. 3 hours in class, it could be a long time. But MS1 and 2 year is about 1.5 hour class. MS1 is to basically learn about the basics of the basics. What it means to be a soldier, what it means to lead, what does leadership mean. MS2 year, same thing, but you go into more ethics and morals of it. So that's that. In class, you do have a grade out of it. I don't know, it varies per university, but it's about 1.5 credits, so it's not really much. But as MS3 and 4, it's 3 credits, so that's a good portion of it. And the grade is comprised of, you have tests, you have journaling. Journaling could be like writing a paragraph, what you learned and how it's applied as being an officer. And what else is there? Funny story. I was gonna have a cadet come in here, and he's in my grade, to help with this, but he called me, and he was like driving to the ER because he got his balls twisted. And it's funny because it happened like once before that. So I'm like, how did it happen twice? Like, and how does it even happen in the first place to get your balls? Anyways, and another story, right? I'll send another story. He actually saved my life. Like, I was about to die because during lab, I ran into this, what I would later find out as like yellow hornets. It was a yellow hornet nest on the ground somehow. And I ran into it and I got attacked. Like, what the heck is stinging me? Like, what is this bunch of things? And like one stung me in the face. I was like, what's going on? And so like I started like getting all these itches on my back. And it turns out I am like highly allergic. Like when I took an allergy test after, I was highly allergic to yellow jackets. And like I was having an anaphylactic reaction. And you know, at the time I thought, you know, this is normal. But it's not normal to have like a bunch of like rash and huge bumps. Like, I mean, when I came, so my friend who was about to come, he drove me to the store, bought some Benadryl, Corzine. We went back to my dorm, and like when I took off my shirt, my whole chest was red. I mean, I had big bumps of like rash and blisters, like small, like it was disgusting. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna put some stuff on, take some Benadryl, take a cold shower, maybe try to ease the pain. But then when I came out of the shower, things got serious because my chest was like tightening up. I was having a hard time breathing. I'm like, man, we gotta go to the ER. Like, this is getting worse. So we sped through. We sped through the highway, going to the and I was like in my PJs. I put on some random clothes. I took out my uniform, and like we were speeding through the highway, like swerving through cars. Like, get out of the way! He was honking. I was on the phone with 911 operator. I'm like, oh my god, save me, bro. And then, you know, they gave me a bunch of steroids. They told me, like, I have to take care of EpiPens now. But anyways, he saved my life, and now he's gone to the same hospital where he sent me. But that's besides the point. Alright, so MS3, or MS1 and 2. Alright, so MS3, alright? This is where leadership starts to come in. So there's different variety of leadership. You can be from the smallest position, you can be a squad leader, and then you can be a PSG, PL, you can be a first sergeant. That's pretty much it for MS3 leadership wise. So, I don't know if you really know like the Army structure, so I'm just gonna start at low level of the Army. So, right, you have your team. I'm not gonna say fire team because usually when people talk about Army structure, they use infantry terms. So like, we have a fire team that's comprised of 2 to 3 members. All right, you go up. You have a squad. Go up to that. You have a platoon. You go up to that. You have a company. All right, and I think the next one's a battalion. I'm not too sure on that. I think it's battalion. All right, so fire teams comprised of 2 to 3 members. And usually there's 2 fire teams in a squad. So a fire team has a team leader, the guy who's basically in charge. Squad has a squad leader. Platoon has a platoon leader. So you get the gist, right? So MS3s are all spread out in the in a leadership spectrum. And there's 34 squads in a platoon. And this is all infantry, right? It could vary per different branch, for armor, for chemical. So I was a squad leader. So I was in charge of 7 to 8 cadets, and each leadership position has different roles, different responsibilities, different tasks to do. So as a squad leader, right, I was in charge of making everyone was accounted for formation. I made sure they were prepared for lab, make sure they understood the material. I gave opward briefs. And an opward brief is basically like a huge document saying who, what, when, where, why, you know, mission, commander's intent of the lab or event we're doing. So everyone's informed, everyone has information, where we're going, the timeline. So that's an opward brief. And you would also have to back brief them. Back brief is basically making sure they know what the info is given out. It's kind of communication. You send out the info, they verify back. So that's leadership, right? And it could be a pain in the butt because accountability is very, very important as a leader. And it's like, it's hammered down because if a person's missing, you know, now you have a big problem. Like, did something go wrong? You know, what's going on? And it's very hard because everyone has a different schedule. So like, there's a lot of cadets. Sometimes I know one of them, his alarm doesn't wake up. One of them shows up late. One of them has like a family emergency. So there's a lot of things that you have to take into account. So make sure you have accountability, and then you pass it up. And that's how it works. It's called a chain of command. You have information, you pass it up, pass it up, pass it up. All right, PSG and PL, same thing. Everything is basically like a waterfall. See here at the top, right? The top is BC, XO, and goes down. See, imagine that's the top. Actually, I'll do that. USAC. It's kind of like a telephone game, right? You start at the very top, they have info. The PMS takes what is necessary for him to accomplish his goals, passes it down. They have stuff to pass down and pass down. Alright, that sounds weird, but basically, that's also another thing. You pass on information. So if you're a platoon leader, you got info from a company, so you want to pass out to your squad. Squad leaders now have that info, they pass it out to your team leaders. That's another task, passing info down. Info down. Also another thing, I was able to be a first sergeant, so there's not really much things you do as a first sergeant. You basically stand in formation in front of the entire battalion of 100 cadets. You stand there, and I'll give the drill and ceremony thing. So you say, fall in. Everyone gets in position of attention, and then sometimes you say, receive the report. This is where you tell your platoon sergeants to get accountability. These should go back to you, and then once they do that, you present arms, and then you say, all right, PSGs to control your platoon and conduct PT. Another thing that first sergeant does is he sends the accountability that he got from his PSGs to all the cadre members, so they can see like who's present, who's not present, who's excused, who's unexcused. CO, you don't really do much besides you help the first sergeant. PSG, I was a PSG. Sometimes if the PSG was absent, there's like a backup plan, pace plan. So like first squad leader would take over as PSG. So I was his first squad leader. So that's basically leadership. MS4 year, this is where you're primarily in staff positions, right? Staff positions, or we call it S shops. So S shops could start from 1 all the way to 8, I think. So each S shop has a specific task, specific responsibility that they hold. And there's also like special staff positions like FSO. This is a real Army term, so I think it's forward-seeking observer. I don't know what it means for a cadet. So like S1, I think S1 is, I think I'll write it down here. S1 is administrative, S2 is intelligence, S3 is operations, S4 is logistics, S5 is plans, S6 is signal, S8 is budget. It's very straightforward. For example, budget, what it means the finance of the entire RTC battalion. He's in charge of all the money, and he deals with just money. You know, fuckers like, if you like, okay, I'll explain it later. It'll be confusing if I mention it now. FSO, that's my job for next year. I'm taking over. Funny thing was, I was gonna be S5, which is like the media guy who like posts stuff on Instagram, on Facebook. So if you ever see those, that's the S5 job. FSO is basically kind of like an S5, except he's more of a recruiting officer, or he's like a cadet helper of the recruiting officer. He basically helps with creating like events other than PT lab, making like connections between Rutgers events. Maybe we could join some stuff that Rutgers has, so we can get more students, because our numbers are low. Quite frankly, it's very hard. There's a lot of demographics you have to consider, like the generation. Like, does the generation have a reason to join the Army? Do they think the Army's plausible at this time? Do you think, like, you know, is there a reason to? You'll see a lot like on ads like free tuition, $20,000. Like obviously that's big incentives for students to join is money, but to be honest, I don't really think that's most important reason why people should be joining, and it brings a false narrative to it. Like you don't want like officers just to join for money. You know, what are they gonna think about? Like, what are soldiers gonna think about when an officer's like down? Like, oh man, like he doesn't have a sense of purpose. You know, he joined just for money, and not to specifically lead people and care about those soldiers and all these things. So I think having a reason and a purpose to join, and that was one of my reasons. You know, as a kid, I saw these Marine advertisements, recruiting videos. I'm like, man, I want to join the Marines. You know, it would be cool to serve my country. And that's one of the reasons, right? I want to serve my country. I want to lead people. I want to help out. You know, because a lot of soldiers, they're all from different backgrounds. You know, you got Native American, you got gay, you got transgender, you got blacks, you got Asians, like all over the nation, all over the world too, international soldiers too. And you know, a lot of reason people join the military is because it's like a good starting point, or they're not financially like stable, so they might have like hardships back then. Now it could be the bridge between their hardships and like being a good person, and like there's a lot of like advice you can give on them and mentorship, which is very important as a leader. And all right, I'm going off topic, but like it's also important. You can ask many officers, right, for advice, like, oh, what should I learn to be a great second lieutenant? And they'll give their own spiel, you know, because they were brought up in a different sector of their branch, so they have their perspective of what it means to be an officer, and their personality also adds to the table. But personally, what I think is an important officer, and it's a big thing in RTC, right? Leading from the front, lead by example, and always being physically fit. I don't necessarily think that's the primary, right? And it does show an image and shows that you care about your body, and it could mean life or death in the battlefield, because right, you got to stay fit. I think being inspirational, being able to build the relationships with your soldiers is very important, which I think goes far beyond just being physically fit. Right, you can be physically fit, but you can have no connection with your soldiers, and you can still be a dickhead. Right, so being able to connect with people, build that relationship, because once you have that trust, that relationship, that trust comes along. That trust goes a long way, right? You can trust, you can be reliable, you have that credibility to lead your soldiers. Your soldiers can trust you can trust your soldiers. And once that happens, like everything's good. Hesitation could be dangerous in combat, right? So that's what I think is important as an officer. Okay. So that's what you do as an MS4, right? And it could be very task demanding, because you have to like, so for labs, right? How labs work is you have all these staff positions working in the background to make this happen, right? There's a lot of working between each staff to make lab and PT happen. So to let that happen, right, to make it more manageable, there's details. Details are basically voluntold. Voluntold is kind of saying like, hey, we chose you. We necessarily can't deny, nor are we forcing you. It's kind of a weird thing. So you have details, and people are put on these details to like help out. It could be a lot of things. It could be, and I'll give you some examples. That's just to name a few. Seat detail, and this is like what our battalion does for details. So seat detail, the reason why we have a seat detail is because it brings a lot of money to RTC, and that money also allows certain events to occur. Like you can, if we have enough money, we can get like a pizza party, we can get like Dunkin' Donuts, we could have like movie night, which never happened. So seat details, you know, at Rutgers, you just basically take apart seats, you put back seats. It's a lot of seats. Color guard, that is a club in RTC. So hold up. So we have clubs, color guard, challenge, running, lifting. So detail could be from a club. Colored guard, meaning color guard is basically you're dressed up in uniform and you do a lot of drill and ceremony with rifles. It's not necessarily a drill team like the Army has where they do cool stuffs and flips. We're not that technical because we don't really have the training for that. So for color guard, we basically just during football games to show, and that's kind of related to FSO. You show your presence, you show like, hey, like at football games, people see RTC and like regular Rutgers students, oh look, it's RTC, maybe, you know, shine some light. Defend the end zone, it's also at football games to show, have RTC appearance, presence in Rutgers. To show, hey, we're out here. You basically do push-ups when there's, when our team, Rutgers football team, scores. Speaking of flag detail, that occurs during PT hours. So, you know, you play Reverie, which is like when you salute, the song comes up and someone's in charge of the speaker. They play it when people present their arms. Flag occurs at the same time as speaker. You raise the flag when the music's playing. It's just an Army thing. Gymnastics detail. This is like the worst. People stay up 4 hours past like 8 p.m. just taking apart stuff. It's horrible. And it's not worth it. Setting up and breaking down equipment, that's a lot for labs. You know, you have to bring equipment towards labs you need for training, such as compasses, dummy rifles. Dummy rifles are like, they're heavy. If you're like carrying a lot of them, you have to bring tables. Setting up and breaking down could be for like PT, fitness tests. So, like for the ACFT, you have to bring a lot of weights for deadlift, and that could vary per person. So you have to like bring a lot of weights just to like manage, so everyone can like lift what they can. And AOIC, that's another kind of detail. So OIC is the officer in charge. AOIC is assistant towards the OIC. So basically, OIC is the guy in charge of events. You could be the OIC for the seat detail. You can be the OIC for all these events. You can be OIC for labs, certain labs. There's a lot of labs. You're the guy in charge of the event, so you have to like coordinate, find people to, you know, carry out your event. Like create a timeline, make sure like have a map, like, oh, where are people going to be at, their coordination. It's a whole thing. An assistant is basically helping out for that. So he has to like be there early with them or her to help out with everything. So MS3 year, by the way, I'm going all over the place. I didn't plan out like the whole spiel of like how to say certain stuff. I'm just saying stuff as things come to my head. So MS3 year, I'm MS3. This is the most important year as RTC because basically your whole RTC career is leading up to this moment. Because at this moment, you have something called CST. And it changes every year. They used to put like CT, LT, and then CT, I don't know. They have different acronyms every year for some reason, but this year's Cadet Summer Training. And it varies. Like during the pandemic, it was 2 weeks long, and now it's 34 days. So CST is the culminating event of your ROTC career. It basically is like one of the important commissioning requirements because they test you on a lot of things to make sure you're prepared. You're tested on land nav. And I'll just write this down. You're tested on a lot of things. Land nav is the most important, most easy, but could easily be the most detrimental towards your commissioning or your ROTC career. It's worth a lot of points because one, as an officer, you have to know where you're going. If you don't know how to plot points, get to point A to point B with just a compass, protractor, and a map, again, you're screwed. So CST values that. You have to be M4 qualified. How to shoot, how well you can shoot a rifle. You have platoon operations. So this is where what you do during lab. It could be a platoon raid. It could be a platoon ambush, a platoon attack, setting up a patrol base. There's a lot of things. So basically that's what you do at lab. MS1s, 2s, and 3s. Right, at lab, MS1s and 2s would usually be in a fire team. They'll have the use leadership positions, but when you're MS3 in the lab, you usually most likely be a squad leader platoon because at CST, you're going to be in these leadership positions constantly. And they want to test you how you react in certain situations. There's going to be a lot of like ambush, you know, like probably not going to happen. Your squad leader gets shot, and now, okay, now what? What are we going to do? Or the Op4, which is kind of the enemy. They use it, enemy term is Op4 at CST. Maybe they like freaking blew up something and like half the platoon is dead. So you gotta learn, figure out like manage communication and leadership, proper confidence, leadership, etc. So I mean at CST too, there's like a 12-day field training exercise called FTX, and that's a culminating event. So that's what you'd be doing primarily. It's broken down in 3 phases. For CST, you learn CBurn, which is like chemical warfare. You learn how to repel. You go through a confidence course, all that stuff, and this goes into commissioning as an officer, and I'll talk about that. I'll write down. Just remember. Okay, so you have CST, MS2 to MS3 year, you have schools. And this is one of the, like there's opportunities that ROTC has, and this is one of them, attending schools. That's primarily military schools. It could be going to air assault school, going to airborne school. That's mostly the most common schools that ROTC offers. If you're at the academy, they offer you some cadets to go to ranger school, sapper school, jungle school. I mean, all the schools. I mean, how many can I list? So you got jungle school. You have, I mean, that's off the top of my head. You got this like weird moose one. I don't know that one. You got Arctic. You got mountaineering school. I mean, all these schools. And how our battalion works is, I mean, we used to have 3 slots. Now, since we're like high speed, we have 4 because our battalion is just kicking ass. So, yeah, there's 4 slots. Actually, no, there's 5. My bad. 5 slots. 1 of them is airborne, and 4 of them is air assault. So, of the 4 slots, 3 that are going to air assault are MS2s, and then we have one fortunate from MS3 going to air assault this summer too. So I went to air assault school, and that's a whole story, but I was really grateful. And obviously you have to compete. Like, our battalion has a separate fitness test for it. And hold up, this is yeah. So when I went to air assault, I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 101st, the Air Assault, and I was there for 34 days. The course is 10 days long. I was there for 34 days. And the reason why I was there was because obviously the first 2 days was quarantine. I went during COVID. And then my dates were from June 18th to July 8th. So, or I don't remember. Yeah, July 8th. During that time, at the base, there was 101st, it was called the 101st Eagles Week. So it was a 10-day long event, and we were off for 10 days. So during that time, we got to explore the base, got to learn the history, got to I got to skeet shoot the first time. It was pretty fun. It's a very beautiful atmosphere, the base, and it was super hot too. But it was just like a weird feeling. It wasn't weird. It was an interesting feeling to be on base and have be a part of something that you can relate to anybody. Like, there's veterans everywhere. People from the Vietnam War, a lot of them, Afghan, and they're very interesting people. So I got to learn a lot, do a lot of things, go to the gym, experience what what an active duty soldier life's like. And we also had a 4-day off for July 4th. So same thing, got to explore base. Air assault was, I don't know, for me, challenging. Not really in the physical aspect, besides the 12-mile ruck. Man, that was beast. That was the hardest thing. I mean, I was sweating constantly. I got heat rash because my hand was literally wet. It was not dry. It was humid that day. It was just a whole vibe. And carrying the rifle, it was just wet the whole time. I was cramping up, and I drank so much water. I stretched. I was drinking half a canteen every 10 minutes. It was that. I drank so much water. I think I drank 2.5 gallons, and I at one point I had to chug this Gatorade, just powder straight up, kind of pre-workout. I don't take pre-workout, kind of like that. And I was still cramping up. Potassium, salt, everything, you name it. It was and I did 2 12-mile rucks before that. I air assaulted at 256, and before that I did at 245 for the test. So what else? Other opportunities, you can apply to internships. So I got an internship at the Army Research Laboratory in Maryland, Aberdeen. So after CST, the day after, I'm going straight to Maryland for my 6-week internship. It's a really great opportunity that I was fortunate enough to get. That's one of the benefits of RTC. You have certain cadre members who is tasked with internships. So you're given a list of internships, you apply for, interview. If you get it, you get it. And I was fortunate enough to get an internship related to STEM. So I'm very grateful for that. And at CST and internship, you gain paid leave, and I think E5 pay too. So that's also great. So that's one of the perks of joining RTC. Is you get to go to school, get some military real military experience. You get to, I'm sure a lot of MS4s say you get to meet a lot of cool people at CST. Different CST, it's at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and there's thousands of cadets from all over the nation. So like I said, the Army is diverse as hell. So you meet people from all walks of life. So get ready to and that's the thing, if you're an asshole, you're not gonna get anywhere. So be humble, but also be yourself and willing to learn, know your mistakes. And I think that's what's going to be key to CST. So, what else is there to learn? Oh yeah. So MS4 year, that's when you're contracting. Typically, by your 4-year mark, you already have all your graduation requirements for your classes. And there's a lot of requirements to commission as an officer. So, right, one of them is going to CST. Another is taking the fitness test. So, fitness test, it used to be the APFT, Army Physical Fitness Test, and now it's the ACFT, Army Combat Fitness Test, ACFT. A lot of people don't know that. It's not a real test. It's still in the making, so it's not counted for anything. And then you have the OPAT, which is actually counted for something. ACFT, you have 6 events. You have the deadlift, you have plank, which is a new thing now. You have the sled carry, your medicine ball throw, hand release push-ups, and 2-mile run. So it's not easy. It's not easy. It's broken up to men and women now, and different age groups. And the highest score is 600, and the lowest I think is 300. I'm not sure. And that's very important. And PT is just like training for you to do well in the ACFT. The OPAT is a joke, but that is one of the requirements everyone like should and needs to max, because if you don't, like, who are you? OPAT is comprised of jumping a certain feat, throwing a ball a certain feat, deadlifting like 160 pounds, and then you have the pacer test, which is like running back and forth. You know, things you did in high school, middle school. To max out is like 52 or 54. I'm not sure. So that's another requirement. I'm not really sure what other requirements as MS4. I'm sure like you have to get your bullock dates. You have to like, bullock is basically like the school for officers. So like for their specific branch. So MS4 year, or going into MS4 year, you start choosing your branch. Branch is basically what job you're gonna have in the Army, and there's a lot. So I'm gonna try my best. So obviously engineers, which is my first choice, because one, I'm an aerospace engineer, and that's what I want to do in engineer. I'm gonna go to sapper school. Sapper school is one of the schools. You know, it's kind of like the equivalent of Ranger School, but for engineers. All right, so we have engineers, we have MI, military intelligence, we have cyber, we have signal, we have quartermaster, EOD, infantry armor, chemical, medical corps, aviation, MP. So all these are branches, and going to your MS4 year, you have to go to this website called Rtc tab. Hold on, let me see if this is still recording. Shit, I've been talking for 43 minutes. Yeah, you go to this website called Rotc Branching, or just tab, and basically you fill out your resume, your transcripts, your academic profile, and then you list out your branches, right? Like what I mentioned, you have your top one all the way down to the last one. And how you decide is based on obviously your own. Like I said, I want to do engineers because it's related, and plus like you can't necessarily go an engineer if you don't have an engineering degree. My second choice, I believe, was MI. It's also a competitive branch. It is basically kind of like the brains of the Army. Third is cyber, I think. I think I'm moving that down, but I'm definitely choosing signal, and the logistics aspects, planning wise, is very important. So that's branches, and once you have that listed, you also need to do interviews. Well, you don't need to do interviews, but interviews is highly recommended, because the branch sees that you're putting in effort, and a lot of ways to get your branch is by one of them is doing an interview, and what else? How to get the branch. Alright, how to get the branch you desire. So one of them, alright, so I'm just gonna erase this. Alright, branch. OMS, OML, branch selection. So I'm not sure of this myself either, but your OMS is a percentage of your OML, and your OMS is basically the PMS own rating. I think it's worth 8%, and that is comprised of blue cards, whether you're fit for active duty, you check. So blue cards is basically when you're in the leadership roles. MS4s are like monitoring you, see how well you're doing as a leader, all that stuff. So the PMS takes into account your blue cards, how well you did at CST. So if you didn't do well at CST, right, then that's a bummer. So 8% of your OML is from the OMS, and that's PMS related. And your OML is OMS, and this could be all wrong, but this is from what I remember. Academics, PT, potential, language, clubs, leadership. All right, like OML is basically everything that you've done for your RTC career to your MS3 year. So like your academics, how well you did in your school during your time in school, and the total points is 100. But if you're in a STEM major like engineering or I don't think comp sci is a STEM major. Sorry. So yeah, academics. If you have like a 3.5 as an engineer, then obviously you get more points. If you were at a 2.0 GPA for engineer, you would still get a bit more points than like say a guy who has a 3.5 in like criminal justice, simply because STEM major is harder, so they understand that like you have to balance RTC and academics. PT, like how well you did in your ACFT. Leadership potential, that's like PMS, like oh, how is he or she as a leader? Is he competent? Does he uphold the Army values? Language is also very important, or has a lot of points to it, simply because like the Army demands people who are bilingual. You know, obviously if you deploy in other countries, you need translators, people who understand. It's very important. Communication is important. Clubs, if you're in any like any sports clubs, if you're intramural, like I'm in the rock climbing club, so that's like rock climbing is like awesome. And funny story, right? When I was climbing at one of the events, I saw the West Point team there, and I didn't expect to see the coach, West Point coach there, who was the same person I met like 10 years ago when my brother was on the rock climbing team at West Point. So that was very interesting to see. I went up to him like, hey, do you know a guy named Amos? I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember. So it was like great, and I got to bond with them, even though there's a whole spiel between West Point cadets and RTC cadets, because and I'll talk about that. I guess I'll make another video after that. Yeah, I guess I'll talk a bit at the end. Leadership, I think I already said the same thing. So yeah, and then you have your branching selection. So based on how you put your branch preference is how the branch will interpret that. So say you put, I mean this is a whole complicated thing, but this is like examples, right? I chose engineers as my number one choice. I have an engineering degree. I did the interview, and they see that like, oh man, okay, this guy, he really wants to do it, so we put on most preferred. Alright. And, okay, that's a terrible example. Say there's a guy who put infantry as 5th, and this other guy put infantry as 1st, but he didn't do the interview, but 5th guy, the guy who put it in 5th, had an interview. Although, you know, he put it as 1st, it's a whole spiel. Yeah, it's kind of confusing. You get like how they their thought process and how they kind of select. So all of these 3 factors factor in the branch choice you get. Alright, so, oh yeah. So in RTC, right, there's different types of cadets. Let me erase this. So different types of cadets. You got contracted. You got on contract. Go. And then you have non-commissioned. So right, there's 4 different categories for cadets. Contracted are those who swore an oath, who are going and are required to serve after you commission or become an officer. Uncontracted are those who have maybe yet to be contracted. They still haven't decided, but there's no serving requirement after. So you can do all 4 years if you wanted to. I don't know why, but you can do all 4 years uncontracted and not have to serve. I mean, you obviously have great PT, but who the hell would want to wake up at 5 unless you're freaking David Coggins? Who what? You know what I'm saying? Alright, you have non-commissioned, which is the same thing as uncontracted. And there's no way you can be contracted if you're non-commissioned. Right? Uncommissioned is basically, you don't have to show up to PT. You're just here for the RTC class for the credits. So like the difference between the two is uncontracted. You're planning to be contracted. So to be contracted from uncontracted, you have to earn it, right? You have to show that you're committed, that you won't just leave like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to serve 4 years. And you're committed by, you know, going to PT every day, going to lab, going to class. All right, so, and the problem is like a lot of MS1s and 2s, they don't really understand like how important it is or serious to join PT, go to PT. Like all these excuses is not good. When I was MS1, right, and I was through all this years, right? I joined when I was MS1, MS2, MS3, and there's a lot of cadets that come and go. I would say like of the original class who joined freshman year, I would say that like 30-40% are left. And like a lot of people went to basic in the guard, never came back. Other people just like, it's just like, why are you here, you know? And other people just like, unfortunately, it was sad to see them go. They had their reasons. So what was I saying? I don't remember. Green Gold is basically people or NCOs, prior enlisted from the active Army, National Guard Reserves, that are just going to, it's the same thing, it's just like the difference is where you're coming from. Contracted, uncontracted, like that can also include enlisted people, right? Just because you're in the Guard or Reserves does not necessarily mean you can be contracted. That's a misconception, but it does help with like, you know, showing the cadre like, oh, this guy went to basic, you know, he's going to PT, like, okay, he's a potential candidate to be contracted. The reason why I'm contracted is because I had a 3-year scholarship. I applied during high school when I was applying to West Point 2. RTC was my backup. It's a whole spiel I'll talk about later. So if you have a scholarship, 2-year, 3-year, Minutemen scholarship, that's from the Guard, then you're automatically contracted. So basically how it works is like, if you have 2-year, you don't get the scholarship until your 2-year. If you have 3-year, you don't get into your 4th year or 3rd year. If you have a 4-year scholarship, then you automatically get your 1st year because it has to go out. I mean, my bad. If you get a 2-year, you start your 2-year. If you get a 3-year, you start your 2-year. And the thing about scholarship, right? They say it's 2 or 3 years or 4 years, but you can extend it. Say like you can't handle your current course load, and like you can't like you don't know if you're gonna pass, you get a D or C, you want to get good GPA, you can extend your time to 5th year. You'll be at MS5. So like once you've gone through all this and you're still MS5, then you don't get to do anything. I think there's like 6 MS5s. 4 of them are engineers. Yeah, 4 of them, and they don't get to do anything because like they already gone through all the requirements. Already gone through CST. Like they should be officers, but they still have a lot of coursework to do. That's all they have to do. The only thing they have to attend is just the fitness test to show like, oh, you didn't just get fat during the year. 6th year, that is like very rare. I think there's only 1 or 2, and it could be like if you're medical route. All right. So let's talk branches and the requirements after you serve. So when you commission as an officer from RTC, and it varies if you go to the academy. If you go through RTC, your mandatory service years is 4, and the active, the reserves, the guard, and you have an additional 4 that is basically, they say it's 4, but like you don't really do anything as a soldier. You're basically retired, but you're kind of like in the drafting system. Like if something happens, then you're the first guys to get back. So there's 4 years of that. Once those 4 years are gone, then if something happens, you're not mandatory to serve unless you guys are drafted. And we go to World War III and we're all fucked. My bad. Language. So yeah, that's branching. But it also varies too, right? If you're medical corps, then your mandatory service is 8 years besides the 4 years you have to serve. Okay, I don't know if this is right. You can always talk to an officer, search online, but this is from what I know. Aviation is 10 years mandatory, simply because the Army wants to keep off, it used to be 12? No, it used to be 10 and now it's 8. I don't remember. But like, the reason why is they want to keep the officers. There's a lot of money put into training, like helicopters, medevacs, and they have a whole system. And yeah, they want to keep them in, and it's just a lot of things. What else is there to talk about? Oh yeah, so if you didn't start from your MS3 year, right? Say you join like sophomore year, you heard about RTC, you're like, man, I want to join, or you're a junior, like you heard about RTC, you said you want to join. The thing is, you can't just start from here and go to CST, right? That wouldn't be possible because you just missed 2.5 years of like PT, of important like classes, important like skills and knowledge that you were supposed to learn your first 2 years. So what do? You go to basic camp, or you go to basic training. Basic camp is basically not basic training, but it's a month-long, not like CST, month-long cadet event where you also go to Fort Knox, but you learn all these like stuff that you were supposed to learn. That it's like enough to like catch up and go to CST. So yeah, you have basic camp too. So I'll give you a funny story. I was originally gonna be S5, and the reason why I was like set to be on S5 was because my PMS. I said in the previous video, he saw my video, he was like, oh, it's great, you you have great editing skills, video. And he was like, okay, I want you to be S5. But apparently that role got taken over by another guy named Xavier, and I'm stuck with FSO. So, oh yeah, I'll talk about this. And this might seem very important before you join RTC. Other than knowing you have to serve if you're contracted, is that time, right? A lot of people casually could say, if they're recruiting people, like, oh, you only have to do PT and lab, right? PT is 4 times a week, lab is 1 time, class is 1 time. All right, PT is usually 1 hour and 15 minutes. Lab is usually around 3 to 4, could be 6. It could be 3 days. 3 hours could be like you have a brief, it rains, to cancel it. 6 hours could be you drive to a fort, like there's a Fort Dix is the closest military base to us. That counts for that. 3 days could be at FTX on the weekend, right? Oh yeah, National Guard. You also have drill to attend, which is 3 days long. Take up your weekend. So that's a lot of time. Classes too, 1.5 hours, 1 to 3 hours. I'll give you, this is becoming typical, right? This doesn't apply to first and second year. This applies mostly to 3 and 4 year. And to be honest, it is getting annoying, but casual say it is, this is, you can expect this in Army. All right, 0530, wake up, AOIC, right? I had to wake up at 0530 because I'm AOIC. That means I have to help the OIC set up the weights, right? No problem. Waking up that, whatever, I'm in Army. And, this is my Wednesday schedule. All right. It concludes at 0830 for the ACNT. You help with the grading, you help put the equipment stuff back. All right, no problem. Now, you have to attend training meetings. Yeah, I have to training meetings because I'm FSO now. Okay. Starting to get annoying, right? My PT uniform, and now I have to go change into OCPs. All right, and that goes up to 0, 10, 15. 0, 20, I have my MS3 class. That goes on to 13, 20, right? Which is like 3 hours long of sitting down and listening. And that's the thing, right? When you're MS3, instead of sitting down and listening to the cadre talk, you are now being the teacher. For us, like we were given a topic. For me, for example, I was given platoon movements information, so I had to teach a class on that. So, MS3 class, 3 hours long in OCPs. I might sound like I'm complaining, but like you can see like my whole morning is RTC. Take into account, I'm an engineering student, okay? And from there, I have to rush to the bus and attend a 3 hour long lab. So my brain is fried in the beginning, I'm tired, and I have to still use my brain in a hot room, small room, hot, and do like engineering stuff. From there, I got another class. Shoot, 1740. I have another class that ends at, what was it, 8? No, I can't do math. Oh, here we go. I have another 3 hour long class. That's a technical elective, and it's just like statistics, which is like tiring, right? So that leaves me 1 or 2 hours to like not chill but do work. But you have to take into account, right? Not only am I AIC, I'm a squad leader. Right? I'm FSO. AOIC, I have to like create slides for my training meeting. Training meetings, you brief your position you update stuff, right? I don't know. What am I doing? No. AOIC. I have to help out with the OIC. FSO. That's where I'm reaching out to events, Rutgers people, generals, all that stuff. Creating training meetings. Squad leader. I have to take into account accountability, passing info at random times, right? It's on the discretion of the training command. When they pass down, okay, I pass it down. I have to do like onboard briefs. I have to take accountability. All these things mixed up in the middle of this. I also have to eat 3 meals a day or 2 meals. Still have to do human needs. And like it's hard as an engineer because like people who are not engineering, if they're criminal justice, if they're SAS majors, if they're I don't know what other major you're doing, communications, physical science, all that, like they have time to go to parties, to hang out with their friends, to go to the gym, making them more fit, making them have a higher grade. So I have to work twice as hard to and like you can't really exempt from not going to lab, not going to PT. I mean you can, right? That's a whole thing with the academic planning, because academics come first. That's probably not true for every battalion, but it is for this. So like it's a weird thing. So like I have a scheduled plan for next year, right? But it conflicts with RTC. And so like what am I gonna do? Am I not gonna attend the RTC labs or class, which is part of my grade, RTC grade? So I mean I'm talking to the PMS and we're trying to make a compromise. So yeah. You know, you also have to do homework. You also have to like do lab assignments. You know, study for midterm. I had like the next day I had like a midterm to study for. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I also have rock climbing, which is like on Fridays and Sundays, like 3 to 4 hour long, depending if we're traveling out. It could be like 5 hours long. You come back, you're tired. Yeah, it's like a whole spiel of like. But like on some other days when I do have some free time, I'll just go to the gym for like an hour, but that takes up like 2.5 hours of my time because I have to walk to the gym, I have to walk back, I have to get food, I have to shower, I have to walk back, and it's not like you're gonna instantly start doing work. And you know, things start getting hectic as time goes on, and people don't realize that. MS1 and 2, you're not really doing much. All you have to do is just follow what you're told. Go to PT, go to lab, that's it. MS3 year, things get hard. Not only that, right? Not only leadership positions, you also have like outside stuff, right? You have to prepare for CST, you have to buy certain gear, you have to set up schedules, get equipment, you have to talk to like, get your travel plans, internships too. There's like so many other things that take up so much of your time. And it's just like, how the hell am I gonna do it? And that's the important thing, right? And I know at West Point, time management is super important, being organized. And I know at West Point you have so much stuff to do. Cause like, I know this because I want to go to West Point. I tried applying my senior year and I tried applying my sophomore year of college. Got rejected in both. And I wanted to go there so bad, it was my dream. But I'll talk about that later. At West Point, you have like so much to ask. Everyone's an athlete there. It's a saying, and you have to like attend. You have to like join intramural club. If you're not in the division side, you have to attend football games. You have to attend. You have like SAMI, which is like a cleaning thing. And like you don't have enough time, like you have to like go to food, like go to the hall to get food, which is mandatory sometimes. And you do have like formation marching, which is a pain in the ass. I heard you have like very little time and to basically like do work. It's like, okay, what am I gonna sacrifice to do certain stuff? and that's kind of like what's gonna happen in this 3 and 4 year. You still have freedom to, you know, you can choose not to go to lecture. At West Point, you're required to go to lecture. You know, attendance is taken. So like, if I'm like really that tired, I can just like sleep during take a nap and not go to lecture. Maybe watch a recording. That's probably not the case at West Point. And quite frankly, 2 people from RTC got on West Point. So congrats to you guys. You know who you are. I talked to you. Congratulations. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I can get in, like, even nitty gritty of, like, I don't know, like, being formation, march, and all that. But I don't know. We've been like talking for like an hour and 20. My brain is like dying. So yeah, that is the whole spiel of RTC. So let's talk about West Point real quick, and I'll make another video, and it'll be a surprise. Like, what the hell? What is this guy posting about West Point if he's in RTC? Initially, I'm gonna be real with you. Initially, I didn't want to go to RTC because I'm like West Point, best of the best, and this whole thing is debatable, right? It's arguable. West Point is the best of the best because they have the best equipment. The whole environment of academic studying and prestige. To justify that they're the best of the best. I didn't think I was gonna be in RTC. I didn't think like it was fit for me. I didn't want to be here. Like at the time, I'm like, I don't want this free time. I want the structured life. I want to be part of the long gray line. And yeah, West Point has a lot of opportunities. Like you get a huge network. My brother and I went snowboarding, and like the odds of like meeting Lieutenant Colonel West Point grad, and she. Like the odds of like, first of all, finding one, and like when we were in Vermont, like my brother, he's a captain. He just got out of the army. He was armor, branch detail, MI, private contract for NSA. He like there was like an instant connection. Like, hey man, West Point sucks, and that bond that everyone got to experience, unlike anybody, like no one else gets to experience like the regular army. That's a very deep connection. Like, hey, you want West Point? Hey, like, instantly set up, have a conversation, strike up a conversation. Connections are like deep. Yeah, like I visited there like 25 times, obviously because of my brother. You know, went to his football games. Yeah, it was like my dream. It was my home. Like I knew like a lot of people, a lot of parents, a lot of recruiting. Liaison officers, and I was like, what am I gonna do if I don't get in? Here's my dream. But after realizing my second time applying, I gave it my all. I retook the SATs. I did everything I could. Tried to like, you know, got an RTC nomination. First time I got a congressional nomination. I did everything I could to get in, but it just wasn't enough. And I was thinking about like, you know, going to basic because one of the cadets who got in from from Sergeant Battalion was because he was in reserves, and that helped him. Like in West Point, they have like a mandatory amount of slots that enlisted need to fill up, and usually those years a lot still remain open. I was going through the direct appointment route, which I was competing with like a lot of smart high schoolers, college people. I mean, it's like really competitive if you're going direct appointment route. Yeah, so if you want to choose between RTC and West Point, just understand your purpose. It does not matter where you go, because at the end of the day, you're gonna become an officer. And I have nothing against West Point. I'm not gonna hate on them because like I have a lot of friends there. I understand what they're going through, and you know, I gave it my all, and it's still gonna itch in my heart. Like, man, I will never have the opportunity to go to West Point, and experience like the long gray line, the history, the culture, the uniform, the buildings, meeting, you know, having all this funding that cadets get, because it's Department of Defense funded, government funded, so they get like best gear, best training. Yeah, I'll never get to experience that. But also at the same time, who knew how well I would have done at West Point? You know, I didn't expect to do this well at RTC. Get a STEM internship at a very competitive STEM place, Army Research Lab. It is like one of the top. I think I would go to air assault school. One of the 3 cadets to go out of my entire RTC class. I didn't think I would be in so much leadership roles, be in a staff position, have all these practice, be in a rock climbing club, meet all these great people, friends, cadets, companions. Like, who knows? But the important thing is that you do your best. And wherever you're at RTC, I wasn't gonna let like getting denied from West Point affect how I am as a person in RTC. I still do my best, you know, in everything, in PT, in lab. I try to do my best, like, in everything. And that stems back from the very beginning. Doing your best, and it goes a long way. Like, there's some peers, all walks of life. We have I think he's like 30 years old. He's a staff sergeant. He was in the active Army, and 82nd Airborne deployed already. That dude is like, he's one of a kind. Like, great people. When you meet great people in RTC, but you also don't. And that's everywhere you go. Basic training, West Point. I know that too, because like I've read so many books. My brother tells me, my friends tell me over there. It's like you meet a lot of great people here too. A lot of opportunities, and opportunities like scholarships. I mean, there's so many scholarships you can apply for. Like, I literally am going to college for free and getting paid more than a West Point cadet because of all the scholarships I'm being paid. I haven't paid a single dime for tuition, room and board, and like not for any books either. Like, I'm getting paid a good amount, and I'm grateful that I had this opportunity. I think that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Ugh. Oh, I know it was a long spiel. You probably didn't watch everything. I'm gonna go back, study. I guess there's a couple more things to talk about. So, aerospace engineer, if you're going to Rutgers, if you're gonna go to Army, just contact me, and I'll give you like my curriculum that I took. Okay, like ROTC, like you don't have as much break as West Point. Like, you have more break than West Point. Like, our winter break is like a month long, so I got to like freaking go snowboarding with my brother in Vermont. Got to like hang out with my brother. I don't see him a lot. Do like climbing, go traveling. I mean, yeah, there's pros and cons of both. You have to understand. There's pros and cons to both. One has a social life, one doesn't. But, and that honestly doesn't really determine how well you are as an officer. If you're simply going to West Point because you want to prove people wrong, you want to have the stats for saying you want to go to West Point, then you're not going to go far. And if I went to West Point or I don't care. The whole reason why I wanted to do either of those is because I want to serve. I want to be an officer. I want to experience hardships, leadership, and just, being a good person. I want to experience that, give back to my country, just for a little bit. I don't plan on staying because life is short. I want to do other things. I don't think the Army is like long term for me. And it might be for others. People might want to stay in for like their whole life, and that's good for you, man. You want to become general? I mean, a lot of generals today. Today we had a brief with the general, and he was a great guy. His name was General Darby. He was Rutgers grad, and he said he didn't expect to be a general. So you never know. I never know. Who knows? Okay. I don't know how to end this, but I guess I'll end it here. If you're one of the cadets who's been, or people that been in my channel watching like this so far, leave a comment. What do you think? You know, points I missed. I guess I'll continue filming or posting videos. But other than that, that's pretty much it.